Globally, markets were down yesterday, taking stock of all the global markets and commodities since yesterday. US investors were cautious on the eve of the Jackson Hole Symposium and the Fed commentary ahead of that. Both the S&P and the Nasdaq broke their 5-day gaining streak. The Dow snapped its 4-day gaining streak and was down more than 0.5%. Energy and consumer discretionary were the biggest losers there. The S&P 500 was down almost 0.2%, and the biggest drags again for the index were energy and consumer discretionary. The Nasdaq composite was down again almost 0.2%. Coming to Europe, European markets continued to fall on virus and policy fears. Sentiment was further rattled after US stocks were in red. To add, data showed that Germany business morale confidence fell for a second straight month in a row in August. The stock 600 was down almost 0.3%, reversing Monday's gains after two flat days on Tuesday and Wednesday. Mining, travel and leisure were leading the losses there. German data led the DAX index, the blue chip DAX index, to fall 0.4% for a second consecutive day. Stocks across all sectors fell, led primarily by financials. The FTSE 100 was down 0.3%, the first fall after 4 successive days of seeing green. The CSE was down around 16 basis points. Asian markets also declined in line with global markets today morning. Nikkei was down around 63 bips. The index has been in red over the last 2 trading sessions. The Shanghai was trading flat with a negative bias. The Shanghai composite broke a 3-day gaining streak on Thursday. The ASX 200 was down a little over 0.25% in trade today morning. South Korea continued in red with the Kospi down around 0.5%. Now mind you, Kospi was down over 1% in trade yesterday, and South Korea was one of the first countries to raise interest rates, and that may be a cause of the negative bias in the South Korean markets. Coming to commodities, the London Metal Exchange gained marginally by just 4 bips. Oil was just above the $67.5 a barrel mark, with Brent well above the $71 a barrel mark. Gold was up to $17.94 an ounce, given that markets were staring at all markets were staring at losses. The LME copper and the DCE iron index was slid around 0.2%. Coming to currency and bonds. Now, the US dollar index was flat with a positive bias, but continues up for a second day in a row. The US dollar index was up around 5 basis points. The US 10-year treasury yields, though, were closing in on the 1.35% mark, was at around 1.342%. And Bitcoin, of course, was down 2.5% at around the US dollars 47,500 mark.